cult of Diana, the woman who's lived in everyone's house, may stay with us a while longer.
We are seeing movement at Kensington Palace, where Princess Diana lived with her two sons, William and Harry. Hundreds of thousands have waited in and around this area. One of the newspapers had an aerial photograph of Kensington Garden, and there's just a cascading carpet of flowers. There you see, almost in the middle of your screen, the horses. CNN's Donna Kelly is there. She's been there all morning. Donna, so many people, yet relative stillness.
You're absolutely right, Bernie, and that's the way it's been at most of the places that I've been to. I was at St. James's and I was at Buckingham Palace, and I also am now this morning at Kensington. And for this number of people, Bernie, it's amazing the people who are here, and there's not really very much talking in a normal tone of voice. People very reverent, very somber, and I suspect that that will get even more quiet as the funeral cortege gets closer to us. We have just a bare view, I can see, perhaps of some movement from our vantage point coming toward us here at Kensington Palace. I can see some of the people on the approach to Kensington Palace who are moving more toward the fence line and toward the gate and trying to get a look of their last view of the princess as she starts this long, sad journey to her final resting place. The one thing that some people had mentioned before, too, the Queen talked yesterday in her unprecedented address of the nation united in grief, and with all the people watching here in person and on television around the world, so many people united in their love and affection of Princess Diana and coming to pay their last respects to her. She came from St. James's Palace last evening here to Kensington. She'd been resting at St. James's in the Chapel Royal all week, and then she was brought here to Kensington, her former home, to rest here. And Prince Charles and Prince William and Prince Harry came to Kensington yesterday from Scotland to pay their respects, and they did greet the crowd yesterday when they came. They were met with applause and people giving their condolences to them, handing them flowers and shaking hands with the young princes and talking to them and encouraging them and showing compassion. Yes, Bernie?
As we watch these pictures with our viewers around the world in 210 countries, a man who's written 2 biographies, Nicholas Davies, is watching these pictures, and I was looking at the expression on your face.
Well, it is the same expression across the nation. There must be many millions who can't make it today, but they will all be watching. And they will all be in a somber mood. So very, very different, Bernie, to those incredible scenes that took place in 1981 when they married, when the flags were waving and the people were cheering. Today, all of us feel as though it should never have happened.
These 6 black horses pulling the gun carriage, holding the coffin. A coffin draped with the royal standard. We remember the royal standard covering the coffin when Princess Diana's body was borne by air from Paris to London by Prince Charles. Along with these horses, 8 mounted policemen escorting the procession, as well as 12 bearers from the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. Throughout this funeral cortege, every time 60 seconds pass, we will hear one tenor bell. Every minute, the sound of the tenor bell. Nicholas Davies, we're going to see something extraordinary when we reach St. James's Palace.
Yes, what is happening here really is that it has become a very personal funeral. Usually these great royal state funerals, as we call them, are full of ceremony, full of protocol, full of tradition. Already we can see this is changing, that it is a far more personal funeral than anyone would have imagined for Princess Diana. And that appears to have been because her brother, Earl Spencer, who she, by the way, brought up as only 18 months older, but they were very, very close when she was a child, he's insisted that it becomes more of a people's funeral than ever we would have imagined the princess to have had.
Prince Charles had a hand in expanding the funeral procession route. You can recall that police authorities were very concerned that there would be so many Britons in the city along this route that the space could not accommodate them. The police balked at the idea of expanding this by 2 miles. And through his spokesman, Prince Charles, in effect, said, okay, if you oppose expanding this cortege route, you are going to have to issue a public statement explaining why.
Oh, Prince Charles has acted extremely well over all this. I mean, he has taken command to a great degree. He has taken over command, and what he is doing all the time is staying as close as he can to the boys.
The tenor bell pealing again. That's one sound. The human sound is that of emotion on the streets of London. resting gently on the standard which drapes the coffin, these white lilies from Prince Charles and sons Prince William and Prince Harry. Nicholas Davies, a question rippling through the funeral cortege route has to be, will they or won't they?
Well, I believe, as a result of yesterday, Bernie, that Prince Charles will walk behind the gun carriage, and I also believe that Prince William and Harry will walk with him. They were remarkable yesterday, Bernie. They warmed everyone's hearts. They worked the crowds there nearly as well as their mother's done 100 times before, 1,000 times before. And I feel they will want to take the last mile with their mother walking behind the gun carriage. No decision has been taken. It was going to be left to see how they could handle today. And that is why Charles said, we will wait to see how they're taking the day. If they can hack it, they will walk behind, and I think they probably will.
Along the cortege route, our reporters are watching what you are watching. Donna Kelly.
Bernie, the crowd fell absolutely silent as Princess Diana's casket went by us just a couple of minutes ago. And the crowd, immediately after it would go by, much of the crowd started to move and to follow the casket down the street. And so many people tried to get pictures of the casket as it went by in the funeral cortege. One of the people who was with us to watch, her name is Cecile. Cecile, when she went by, your thoughts?
Great sadness. So the loss of somebody who I believe was very, very special. And I think she showed us that kindness can become a way of life. And what I would like to say, that I feel that if each one of us who's watching, who's here today, could do one act of kindness for somebody, maybe someone they hadn't thought about before, that would be a tremendous monument to her, and it would be a living thing that maybe would become a way of life.
And that is something the princess would probably like, because she acted with such kindness and compassion. Bernie?
Donna Kelly along the funeral cortege route. If you are just joining us, the cortege has moved away from Kensington Palace, where Princess Diana lived. It is moving along London's historic streets, advancing on St. James's Palace. As the procession moves here in London, the military precision is, if you will, very, very precise. The soldiers are marching at what's called dead march step, 70 paces per minute. Richard Blystone, everyone involved in this funeral cortege, officially, these soldiers, these horses, has been rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed.
That's right, Bernie. Certainly the British, we have come to expect the best of this sort of thing for the British. Curiously enough, they were not very good at it as recently as the middle of the last century, when there were many complaints during a royal funeral that the British don't do that sort of thing very well. They certainly do it well now. The men whom you see walking on either side of the casket there, the men in red with the bearskin hats, are members of the Welsh Guards. Diana, you will remember, was Princess of Wales, married to the Prince of Wales. The mounted man on the right-hand side of your screen, well, you've just missed him now, was the sergeant commanding. A couple of mounted men in the parade, and then trace bearers walking along beside. The 8 men flanking the coffin will be the ones who will carry the casket. Bernie?
The funeral cortege now passing along the southern edge of Hyde Park. Bill Delaney is at St. James's Palace along the road.
Very early in the morning. What brought you out here?
Oh, we stayed out.
Last night. And we just wanted to get a space by the front so we could see it when she went by.
Why is that important to you to be here today?
Just to pay my last respects, say goodbye.
What did she mean to you?
She was very kind and very generous, and she gave her time to other people. And
What?
That's a lot to give.
What did she mean to you? You're just a young woman. What did she mean to your generation?
She was young and she was, I don't know, she was just a young princess. That's... I don't know what to say.
Are you related?
I'm a mother, yes.
I guess that's a relation.
Yes, yes, yes. No, it's very moving, and I think maybe more so for the younger ones who it came as a shock, and it's brought home the fact that we're all kind of mortal, here today, gone tomorrow. I think especially so for the teenagers, the younger ones.
CNN and CNN International welcome to the coverage Christopher Hancock, a former British government official who is an expert on protocol and ceremonies. He has helped plan extensively occasions of state. Christopher, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Where are we now, and how is this unfolding?
It's unfolding very much as I had anticipated. For me personally, it brings back memories of Churchill's funeral and of the funeral of Lord Mountbatten. When we met yesterday, I spoke to you and I told you that there's a sense of grief which catches you as the cortege comes into view and precedes it a little. And watching the faces on the screen, I can see it happening today. There's that something that you can't put your finger on it at all. It's just something that precedes the coffin and catches everyone. Even the most hardened viewer of royal ceremonial is caught. And I've been watching the crowd, and as I said, there have been tears in the silence. And this was the case with the ceremonies that I dealt with before. It's now passing through Kensington Gardens area and Hyde Park.
Christopher, as we watch,
Yes.
are we not seeing elements that have a very rich British history?
Royal funerals in this format, in fact, are a product of the 20th century, starting with Queen Victoria's funeral in 1901. Before that, members of the royal family were usually buried at night. But this did cause problems, and the classic problem and the interesting precedent which is being set here is at Queen Victoria's funeral, it was February, it was cold, it was icy, and the horses couldn't cope with the cobbles. And Edward VII, the new king, ordered that sailors should draw the gun carriage along, and this has been the case until now. This is a break from precedent. This is a new modern look. It's horses, not sailors, that are drawing the coffin today.
Christopher, we're going to check in with Fionnuala Sweeney. She is at St. James's Palace. A short while ago, Nicholas Davies and I were wondering about whether or not Prince Charles and Princes William and Harry would follow in. Fionnuala?
Well, the latest information that we have, Bernie, and that is, of course, subject to change, but the latest information that we have is that when the funeral cortege comes down the mall here and stops to my right at St. James's Palace, it will be joined by Prince Charles, Prince William, the Duke of Edinburgh, and Diana's brother, Earl Spencer. That's the latest information we have. Prince Harry, 12 years old, apparently not going to make that last mile following his mother's coffin down towards Westminster Abbey. So just once again, the latest information we have, and subject to change, is that Prince Charles, Prince William, Duke of Edinburgh, and Earl Spencer, Diana's brother, who is expected here imminently, will follow the coffin down the last mile, through Horse Guards to the right, and then through on to Westminster Abbey. Bernie.
Christopher Hancock, the tenor bell every 60 seconds as the cortege moves down the streets here.
Yes, that's correct. It's a normal practice which has been, in fact, employed for about 700 years. It's recorded that at the funeral of Queen Elizabeth I, the same bell was heard marking the days of her life. And it's a normal practice that I would have expected to take place. If the Princess of Wales had become Queen and this had been a slightly bigger funeral, then Big Ben would have also tolled throughout the procession, as it did for King George VI and Winston Churchill, but not for Lord Mountbatten.
Christopher, let me interrupt you for
Yes,
just
sir.
a moment to make note of some very well-known faces, as many more will be coming. Actors Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, director Steven Spielberg, and earlier you may have seen Sting. And also Nicole Kidman.
Sorry.
Prime ministers, ex-prime ministers.
Former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and her husband, Sir Dennis.
Splendor.
Among those in this throng, Donna Kelly has someone who knew Princess Diana. Donna?
Bernie, thanks. We're outside Kensington Palace once again, and Julian has joined us. He played piano for Diana on a Red Cross concert in 1995. Did you actually get a chance to talk to the princess?
I did. It was a wonderful day. She came in. We were all presented as the people who were performing in the concert, and she actually said to me, she said, "Did you bring your record with you?" And I said, "Well, I was a bit taken aback," and I said, "No." And she said, "Oh, it's a shame. We could have given it to everybody in the room."
How was she in person?
Very natural. I remember so well. I played Chopin's Fourth Ballade. And I remember so well, a very strenuous piece to play, and I came and bowed afterwards, and she was smiling up at me, looking with very simple appreciation. I remember it so well, very clear to me. Yeah.
Did she talk to you about how important it was, the work that she was doing with the Red Cross?
Well, it was clear for so long how important that cause was. So it was actually the 125th birthday of the Red Cross. She'd come to make the event.
Certainly one of the things that the princess will be remembered, her work for charity. Bernie?
Thank you, Donna. The coffin and the cortege continues moving very methodically. Just to the south of Hyde Park, it is going to be leaving that area. It will go through the archway onto Apsley House, under the Wellington Arch, then up Constitution Hill to Buckingham Palace, and then St. James's Palace. The cortege now has moved away from Hyde Park Corner, and ultimately here, Westminster Abbey, of course, is where it will be coming to a halt. Christopher Hancock mourners, specially invited, upwards of 2,000, are slowly making their way into the Abbey. What happens?
Well, they will be shown to their places. The thing that fascinates me is the cross-section of people who are arriving, from Baroness Thatcher, a former Prime Minister, to Sting, etc. It reflects the huge range of Princess Diana's interests during her lifetime, and I'm sure it's something that has never ever been seen before at a royal funeral, not to that width. Historically, of course, people have always been invited, but they were usually the great and the good, and this makes this something very different. But the precedent was set at Lord Mountbatten's funeral when it was insisted from the highest level that members of his ship's crews and members of the Burma Association should be inside the Abbey and not blocked outside, and I think that was right. And I think it's right in this instance for Princess Diana to be buried or prepared for burial in the presence of those she knew well. The interesting thing is that her coffin is now approaching Apsley House at Wellington Gate. The Duke of Wellington had one of the biggest state funerals ever when he died in the mid-19th century, and it passed through this gate and in front of Apsley House on its way to St Paul's Cathedral. And there are hundreds of wonderful paintings and prints of that event, and I'm sure there will be of this. It's a moment of great history. 150 years later, a beautiful young woman is following in the steps of a very old, very venerable politician.
History indeed, as we look inside Westminster Abbey. Along this cortege route, historic building after historic building. Whitehall, one of them. Martin Savage is there.
Bernie, we're on the street level here at Whitehall among the people, and the view is perhaps not the best, but if you want to get the feeling of what it's like to be here, this is exactly the sort of spot you want to be. These two young ladies have brought with them flowers. There are so many people that are scattered amongst this crowd that have brought these flowers, and no one's quite clear exactly what they intend to do with them. Let me ask, you hope to use them in some way. Tell us how.
Yes, in fact, what we plan to do is when the coffin goes down, wanted to actually throw them out, but we've actually decided that probably wouldn't be very practical and advised not to, so we're going to go down to the Abbey after and leave them there. But this is an extremely sad day for the country and the world.
Hold them up so we might see them. To point out here, though, the crowd has been told that they shouldn't throw anything towards the procession, but in fact, no one really knows exactly what is going to happen when the procession goes by. All of this has been rather spontaneous, and that spontaneity continues, even as the funeral does. Bernie?
Thank you, Martin. Wherever you are watching in the world, if you are just joining us, the cortege, the catafalque, the gun carriage, and the coffin containing the body of the Princess of Wales continues moving slowly through the streets of London en route to Westminster Abbey. At Westminster, Brent Sadler.
Thanks, Bernie. The VIPs are continuing to file into the Abbey. We've seen here over the past 30 minutes or so the actors Tom Cruise, also Tom Hanks and Nicole Kidman, and a short time ago the arrival of the singer Diana Ross, reflecting Princess Diana's relationship with the star-glittered world of Hollywood. I'm now joined by Tony Tolman, who's cycled here in the middle of the night to see this event. What do you make of what's unfolding here before you now? It is rather an epic event, isn't it?
Well, I hate to confess I'm 50 years of age and I have never experienced anything like it in my whole life before. I just cannot express my feelings.
Thank you very much. Bernie, back to you.
Thank you. Brent Sadler. The many charities that Princess Diana was involved with have representatives who will be joining in once the funeral cortege reaches St. James's Place. Throughout the past few days, we have talked to many people, and representatives of these various charitable groups have expressed complete ecstasy that they are going to have a chance to express their appreciation, to express their love for the work of Princess Diana by actually being in the funeral cortege. We're just looking at some of these representatives. We are looking at the representatives of some 500 charities who were very, very pleased to know the Princess of Wales because she worked so tirelessly for causes ranging from groups involved with combating AIDS to, of course, her work through the American Red Cross, or through the Red Cross, in a push for the removal forever from this earth of landmines. One thing that happened that was very remarkable earlier in the week, Buckingham Palace announced that there would be a memorial fund, officially called the Diana Princess of Wales Memorial Fund. And ever since Diana's death in Paris on Saturday night, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been flooding into London from around the world. And most recently in her life, Princess Diana was patron of president of 6 charities, and as we say, through the Red Cross, she had launched the Landmines campaign. But all the charities this woman touched are represented in the men and women we see moving slowly in this sad procession. As we watch the cortege move, this is Mohammed Al Fayed and his wife, Mr. Fayed, of course, the father of Dodi Fayed, who was with Princess Diana the night they died in the Paris accident Saturday night. I was going to say that there is so much going on along the cortege route. CNN's Richard Blystone talked with a woman who was watching the procession and trying to do something else. Let's listen in.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay.
What kind of day is this for you?
Very, very sad. Very sad.
Was Princess Diana really part of your life in some way?
Yeah, very much a part of our lives.
In what way?
In every way. In every way. She is the royal family. She really is.
Can you tell us what you're writing?
I'm just thinking when I'm sitting here what I'm going to write. I don't know. I'm just thinking when I'm sitting here.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Can you read it to us?
It just says the people's princess should always be remembered forever.
Opera singer Luciano Pavarotti, he was so overtaken upon hearing the word of Princess Diana's death that he simply could not sing in London. And a few days ago, Wednesday, his office sent word that while he would not sing at Diana's funeral, he would be here. He is here. At this kind of occasion, no one wants to be late. The funeral for Princess Diana will begin in 1 hour. And here at Westminster Abbey, dignitaries and friends continue arriving to be in place. Singer Elton John will be singing at this funeral. And this is something he wants very much to do. Also, another of Diana's favorites, George Michael, who arrived in London yesterday. No doubt you have heard that Elton John has rewritten the beginning lyrics of what he will perform. Candle in the Wind. And the opening line will go, "Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts." Outside Westminster Abbey, Big Ben pealed 9 o'clock in the morning here in London, and in some 57 minutes, the funeral for Diana, Princess of Wales, will begin. As the funeral cortege moves towards the top of Constitution Hill, very, very shortly it will be at Buckingham Palace. We mentioned the representatives of charitable groups. Let's go now to Brent Sadler. Brent?
Thanks, Bernie. Yes, Princess Diana was much involved with many charities, not least elderly people. I'm joined by Jill Manthorpe, who's come from the East Riding of Yorkshire in the north of England. She's from Age Concern. You met Princess Diana. What did you think about her role in the world of charity work?
Princess Diana will be much missed. Her work with older people was very highly valued in the United Kingdom and abroad. She had a great affinity with older people and really made them feel very special. I know that I speak on a lot of people who are involved in charity work in England in saying how much she'll be missed and how much we hope other people will contribute to the work that she was involved in.
Has there been anybody quite like her, or could there be anybody like her in the future who could gain so much attention for charities and their fundraising events?
I think everybody has a little bit of Princess Diana in them, and so we hope that many people will feel moved by the atmosphere here and throughout the country in getting involved in voluntary work.
What do you remember about the time you met her?
When I met Princess Diana, she was a very charming person who made a very moving speech about the needs of families with handicapped children, and that's again another area where she'll be much missed.
Do you think this event will help charities who have a strong association with the late princess to continue their work and to remain in the limelight, or are they going to suffer